Namaskar friends, today we have Gaurav Sharma who is standing as a Labour candidate from Hamilton West. In 2017 as well, he was a Labour candidate from that very seat. So we'll just jump straight into it and talk to him about his campaign issues, what drives him and what change he wants to bring about in his constituency. Gaurav, thanks for giving us time today.
Thank you for having me. It's fun, good to be here. And I just want to first of all say, you've done great work in journalism, and especially, with our names being same.
Yeah, that's the thing. Lots of people, and I'm sure you get lots of abuse for my stories as well.
There's never been abuse so far. I always get, people saying, "Wow, what a great article you've written in Spin-Off," or "What a great article you've written in."
So don't worry, friends. He's praising me, but this interview will still be tough. So I want to start by, last year after the Christchurch terror attacks on the two mosques there, you wrote a piece for Stuff, and I'm quoting that. It says you wrote, "Is New Zealand a racist country? Depends on who you ask and when." You go on to say that racism starts small at schools. What has been your experience? So your father came here in 1996. It has been around 25 years. What has been your experience as regards to racism and in general growing up as a Kiwi-Indian in New Zealand?
Look, I want to start by saying that racism isn't an isolated incident only in New Zealand. It happens everywhere. The degree to which it happens differs from country to country, and we're already seeing things that are happening in US.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen in New Zealand. When I first came to New Zealand, it was very different. The country was different. We didn't have as many migrants. The whole societal structure was different. And I think as the number of migrants have increased in the country, people have a little bit better understanding of other cultures as well, which obviously helps, in understanding other races, other cultures. But that doesn't mean, it's a smooth sailing for most people. When I first came to New Zealand, people would throw stuff at you. You're just walking past and somebody would throw stuff at you from a car.
You wrote that you have been bullied for your accent as well.
Definitely. Initially when I came and I was studying at Auckland Grammar, I remember just walking past from school to home, and somebody would throw a bottle at you and say some sort of racial slur at you. And even at work, sometimes it has happened that people have said something generalized about.
In that article you wrote that some top surgeon called you at night and told you that he will slit your throat because you complained of bullying in the hospital.
Yeah, no, I did, and unfortunately it took a very racial element from their side, and it wasn't easy to fight back. It never is like any bullying, but I think when a sort of racial element is involved, it becomes sometimes even harder.
So your experience, as I gather, has been like any other migrant. So you have faced racism. So now that you are standing in an election, how do you propose to fight that? Like when you say it starts at school. So you have some ideas, how do you fight racism in schools?
Yeah, and one thing I've got to mention is, even last election, when I was running in 2017, I would go out, door knocking, and people would just tell me to, just go away. And they wouldn't want to
because you were not looking Kiwi enough?
Well, exactly, and they wouldn't want to shake your hands. And I remember specifically one day we were door knocking, and one of my Pakeha friends was with me, and somebody said, couldn't you find somebody who looked like us rather than somebody else? So it still happens, and possibly will happen this election too. So in terms of, I guess, changing things, and as I've said before, at school level, because that's where the next generation gets affected. A lot of it
is
about,
where the intervention should be. Right?
Well, exactly, and a lot of it is about, I guess, education, right? And as I said, things are changing now that there are more migrants in the country. But just having migrants doesn't really mean that it will lead to a better outcome in terms of racial integrity. So, for example, Asian New Zealand Foundation does a lot of good work in terms of helping people from different cultures understand each other, especially in New Zealand, and helping, I guess, New Zealanders understand about other cultures.
Like, for example, we did a piece where we said, in your opinion, will it help that Ministry of Education makes it mandatory for schools in New Zealand to celebrate the major festivals of all the religions, like Diwali or Eid, something like that?
I mean, I guess in terms of celebrating festivals, that's not the only way.
Yeah.
You know, I think more about education about why there is a festival. You know, I mean, we still have Diwali function at the moment, and you know, a lot of people go there and they might.
So teaching kids the cultural and religious aspect.
Yeah, and the significance of it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you can go there and have good food and you know enjoy the dances, music, and if you come back home just understanding a little bit of Bollywood music, I'm not sure if it's completely
the way it is happening right now.
Well, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's more about education about you know what does it mean to be coming from a different culture. You know, what are the cultural significance of certain events, you know, certain you know even cultural events. But that education would really help.
Really.
Yeah.
Let's move to your involvement with the Labour Party.
Yeah.
I gather that you started your involvement with helping Phil Goff in the Mount Roskill by-election.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Oh, it was great. Look, I don't think there is a better person you know to teach you about politics.
Okay.
Than you know Phil Goff. At that point, he was a member of parliament. Now he's you know the mayor of the city, and he was incredibly kind. You know, I used to work at Middlemore Hospital at that point, and I would do like night shifts, and then you know in the morning I would come and help out with this election.
So you learned the ropes of politics from him.
Well, exactly, yeah, and it was amazing. Like you know, here he was sort of. We would drive around places, and you know he would sort of give me all these pearls of wisdom while we were just driving around town. So I think it's better than any sort of formal education.
You know why I asked this? Because he was the former leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Right now, Jacinda leads the party and such a popular leader.
Yeah.
I was going through your campaign in 2017, and she actually says something like this. She said she met you, and she was very impressed by your passion for social justice.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to bring out. So what drives you when she says social justice? Why are you in politics? What drives you?
I guess the first question would be why did I do medicine, right? So I mean, the reason for me to do medicine was you know when I was working as a caregiver in a rest home, I really felt connected to people and found it as a way of helping people. Over time, I realized you know medicine is really good in helping people one-to-one, but if you want to help people on a larger level, you know, you should be involved in policy, you should be involved in politics as well. So that sort of reason.
Maybe become Minister of Health.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, there's lots of options, but you know, I'm in the first step of the process. But I think you have to be involved in a discussion on a larger level.
Okay.
So that was my reason for joining, you know, medicine, and now I feel like you know, on a bigger level, joining politics is important. Now, in terms of social justice, you know, obviously my work in medicine, but also, you know, for example, Auckland Refugee Council, where I was a board member, and we were working towards increasing our refugee quota, even before it was Labour Party policy.
Okay.
So, you know, my work is all about helping people, and especially when you work in medicine, you know, you see people across the board.
You work with Auckland City Mission as well, right? Sometimes.
Well, Auckland City Mission sort of is a little bit closer to my heart because my dad used to eat here, you know, when he was homeless. A long time ago.
When you first arrived.
Exactly, yeah. So I often go and see them, you know, on my birthdays and other events as well. Yeah.
Okay. So generally, because you know, as you said, you will face some racist comments while you are campaigning this time as well, because you will always be identified as a Kiwi-Indian. So when you talk about issues concerning the Indian community or other multicultural communities, the Chinese, the Koreans, so what do you think are important? I know immigration is important, but issues like co-ethnic exploitation. What's your stand on that? Why isn't the government doing enough to stop that?
Look, it is definitely a big issue, and I mean, if you go through my sort of Facebook history as well, many times I've called out people for I think in a way bringing disrepute to the whole community, because it's not just you know when you are an Indian business exploiting Indian people, or you know Indian business exploiting anybody, it brings a bad name to the whole community. And I've said this many times. You know, I think people need to be held accountable for that, and the government is working towards that.
Is criminal prosecution the way to go instead of just a slap on the wrist of few $1,000s?
Well, I think it's one of the options to look at, and you know the government, especially with their new you know fair pay agreements stuff, they are looking at even migrant workers in New Zealand who are working for even foreign companies, because that's another you know sort of loophole you can get into, like who owns the company, who's working for it. So across the board, you know, we need to work on.
That is a part of social justice as well.
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly.
Preventing exploitation of workers,
definitely.
Not only migrant workers, but
all
workers.
Definitely. And then sometimes you know, migrant workers unfortunately end up getting more of it.
Yeah, the entire labor movement is built on that.
Exactly.
You know, the workers.
Yes.
Right? Let's come to your constituency now. So you were standing again, as we said in the intro, you stood in 2017 as well.
Yeah.
And the national MP Tim has been there since 2008.
Yeah.
And he keeps winning against Labour candidates, right?
Yeah.
What makes you believe that this time, unlike last time, you can beat him in that election?
Well, in that specific scenario, it's slightly different. When I came into Hamilton West last election, it was just about 2 months before the election for various reasons. But this time, I've had three years to work on the ground as well. Also, it's important to understand that, Hamilton West is a bellwether seat. So it is, for the last 60 years or so, it's always gone to, the largest party or the Popular Party. That doesn't mean that, we're just going to sit on our sort of laurels, Prime Minister's done a great
ride on the Jacinda wave.
No, exactly, yes. I mean, Prime Minister's done a great job, but I think it's not just about that. We have to work hard. And I've spent the last 3 years working on.
So you work the ground, you mean?
Definitely.
So
yes.
you hope the results will be different this time, unlike the last 3-4 elections?
Yes, definitely. And Tim's definitely been there for a longer period of time, so it just means,
So how will it be your campaign different this time? What are the issues you will fight on?
So in terms of...
different from the last
time, yeah, definitely. So in terms of, I guess, what's changed this time now is especially the pandemic. What's needed is more investment in infrastructure. Like that's that sort of thing we talk about, Roti Kapra Makan sort of thing. And that's same across the board. But for Hamilton, it's about growing our economy. For a long time, Hamilton's been the city of the future, but now it's the city of now.
Okay.
Right? And government has done a lot of good work in terms of investment. We're investing in mental health.
But you campaigned on the commuter railway between
Yes. Yeah.
Will you campaign again this time?
Yeah, definitely. So commuter rail is on the cards. Mental health facility. We've invested $100 million in a new mental health facility. Peacock's development. Futures heard recently. Ruakura Inland Port as
and
well.
one of the campaign promises and the issues last time was the Waikato hospital, right?
Yeah.
Just a few days back, the government's own report actually is saying that ICUs, OPDs, emergency departments across New Zealand, not only in that DHB, but across New Zealand are in poor or very poor, and you are a doctor.
Yeah.
And the government is saying that poor or very poor state.
Yeah.
How do you plan to change that? At least in your Waikato hospital in your area.
Yeah, and look, Waikato Hospital has had its fair share of troubles. If you've been following the news, there was an issue which led to the health minister removing the whole board as well, and there's now a commissioner appointed. And that's a sort of slightly separate issue from the whole healthcare not being funded as well across the country. And even last election, we said we were going to invest $8 billion over years. And we are doing that. And again, as I said, that $100 million into the new mental health facility is part of that as well. So a lot of money is going into it. But you have to understand, $8 billion of deficit in healthcare investment over the 9 years of last government is not going to go away in just a few years.
But can you promise, if you become an MP from Hamilton West, that investment will go towards, a part of that will go towards the Waikato hospital?
Well, look, I am all for it, and I'm definitely vouching for it. And as somebody who works in the system,
as a doctor,
yeah, definitely, and not just the hospital, also community health as well. I work as a GP, so same thing with the PHOs as well. They need more funding, and the government has done a good job, but obviously it will need more funding as we move forward.
Last thing I want to ask you, because I understand you are involved in the policy making part of Labour Party as well. National's entire election campaign is and will be about reviving the economy. They famously say that Labour is good at governing when everything is hunky-dory, but when you need revival, they are the party to go to. They give example of GFC or Christchurch earthquake. So how does the Labour Party, on a policy level, planning to deal with this narrative of national?
Well, look, from what I've seen in the media in the last few weeks, I'm not sure if just saying that you have a plan works, or the fact that you've done well last time, many years ago works. The questions have been asked about National's policy in detail, but there is no policy that I've seen, at least. As far as Labour is concerned, our policies actually come from the ground. And it's a very complex process as well. We reach out to people in every branch, every electorate, and they provide us feedback that goes to a regional council, where that's taken again to the annual conference. So all the policies actually come from the ground. So people who are affected by policies are actually involved in making those policies.
So what are the small businesses telling you? Because Todd Muller actually has that portfolio under him.
Yes.
Right. So what are the small businesses telling you? What policy do they want for revival of them?
Well, look, so far all I've heard is good things about what the government has done so far in the pandemic. And I think again, as I said, it's kind of wrong to say that Labour hasn't done well in terms of managing economy before or even now. I mean, if you look in the pandemic time, part of it was about managing health and public health, but part of it was also managing people and their wages and the businesses. And the feedback has been amazing. The wage subsidy scheme has worked really well, and Crown Protestant's got a really good plan moving forward in terms of investing in businesses, big and small, and all of them need to be supported across the board.
So your message to voters is that Labour is the party for economic revival as well?
Definitely, and I think you have to understand that no matter what the crisis is, Jacinda Ardern's done a great job. Whether you look at Christchurch attacks, whether you look at
the White Island,
yeah, exactly, the volcano. You look at the pandemic, but it's about taking advice from leaders in the around you and seeking advice, and the Prime Minister's done a great job in doing that, and then implementing it. So same thing with the economic policies as well. We've got some of the best minds advising us, and we are implementing this.
So we leave that for voters to decide that.
Definitely.
We'll shake hands now. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Cheers.